My name is Natalie Carter, and I'm 28 years old. Half a year ago, my parents stood before 75 wedding attendees and declared that the most meaningful gift I could offer my sister would be to vanish from her existence permanently. They claimed my presence would destroy her flawless celebration, that I represented shame to our family legacy. What they had no idea about was that I possessed the power to destroy far more than a single event. The wine glass that fell from my shaking hand became the trigger for revealing decades of deception, concealed paperwork, and wealth they never suspected existed. Before I explain what transpired at that rehearsal gathering, please take a moment to like and subscribe. But only if you truly relate to stories about establishing boundaries with harmful families. I'm interested to know where you're viewing from and what hour it is. Leave a comment below. It reminds me I'm not isolated in this experience. Let me bring you back to that evening at the St. Regis Hotel in Connecticut, where my sister Amanda's fairy tale was about to become my revelation. The St. Regis ballroom gleamed with the type of sophistication that only inherited wealth could purchase. Crystal fixtures cast shifting shadows across the marble flooring, while waitstaff in white gloves moved through the space with champagne bottles that cost more per bottle than most people's monthly rent. 75 of Connecticut's privileged had assembled for Amanda's rehearsal celebration. Politicians, investment executives, and society figures whose names consistently appeared in the social columns. Amanda stood at the heart of everything, glowing in her $15,000 Oscar de la Renta cocktail gown, her laughter sparkling like the champagne glasses that clinked in her recognition. Every element had been choreographed to perfection. The orchid arrangements imported from Thailand. The 7-course tasting designed by a Michelin-starred culinary artist. The string ensemble performing quietly in the corner. And then there was me in my modest black dress from Nordstrom Rack, price label carefully detached, but the $200 expense still straining my credit card. I stood near the service corridor, clipboard gripped tight, reviewing and re-reviewing the evening's schedule. While Amanda drifted through the space like aristocracy, I verified place settings and stressed about the plant-based selections for table 12-12. Natalie, the arrangements at table 3 are drooping, my mother hissed as she walked past, not even glancing my direction. Handle it discreetly. I nodded, already heading toward the problematic display. This was my position. Unseen, productive, required, but never recognized. I devoted 6 months organizing every element of this wedding, from hand-lettering 500 invitations to bargaining with 12 separate vendors. Yet, as far as the attendees were concerned, I might as well have been hotel personnel. But that was about to transform in ways none of us could have anticipated. Ladies and gentlemen, my mother's voice projected, demanding immediate attention. Patricia Carter had that influence on people. 68 years of privilege had taught her precisely how to command a space. I want you all to meet the bride-to-be, my precious Amanda, who's about to join the distinguished Morrison family. She wrapped an arm around Amanda's waist, drawing her close as cameras captured the moment. The two of them appeared like a fashion editorial, coordinated blonde highlights, couture gowns, diamonds reflecting the light. My father, Thomas, joined them, his silver hair shining as he lifted his glass in tribute. To our beautiful daughter, he declared, who has made us prouder than language can convey. Senator Morrison approached, his wife Helen beside him. Thomas, Patricia, you must be so proud of Amanda. Such an accomplished young woman, Day. He paused, scanning the room. Will your other daughter be attending tonight? The silence extended for a moment too long. Other daughter. My mother's laugh was crystalline, rehearsed. Oh, you mean Natalie? She gestured vaguely in my direction without looking. She's assisting with the logistics. She's very useful with these types of arrangements. The senator's wife followed my mother's gesture, her eyes finding me as I straightened a centerpiece. Oh, I see. How nice that she's so involved. The word hung in the atmosphere like a courteous insult. Not talented or dedicated, just involved, like I was an amateur who'd wandered in from elsewhere. Amanda's sparkling laugh pierced the moment. Natalie's always been skilled with the Nair. Behind-the-scenes tasks. Some people are just designed for the spotlight, and others? She trailed off with a graceful shrug. My hands clenched on the clipboard, but I maintained my expression, neutral, professional, composed. But that was about to shift. 6 months earlier, I'd sat in my parents' living room, planning documents spread across the coffee table. I want to manage Amanda's wedding, I'd announced, trying to suppress the hope in my voice. All of it. The organizing, coordination, everything. Amanda had looked up from her phone, one perfectly shaped eyebrow lifted. You? Natalie, you can barely organize your own closet. Just don't ruin it like usual, my mother added, not lifting her gaze from her magazine, like when she tried to assist with the charity gala da. We're still making apologies for that catastrophe. I'd inadvertently double-booked the location, an error that occurred because they'd provided me the incorrect date to start with, but that detail had been conveniently erased. Maybe focus on basic tasks, my father had said, his tone dismissive. We can hire a proper wedding coordinator for the significant decisions. I have a degree from Parsons, I reminded them quietly. I graduated summa cum laude. Interior design encompasses event coordination. Online programs hardly qualify as Parsons, dear, Amanda had laughed, even though she knew I'd attended physically, even though she'd been at my commencement, or rather she'd been in the park. Structure complaining about the congestion. But I'd insisted. For 6 months, I worked 16-hour days without compensation, without gratitude, without acknowledgement. I negotiated vendor agreements that saved them $30,000. I hand-calligraphed 500 invitations when the professional they'd contracted fell through. I resolved emergency after emergency, from the caterer's insolvency to the venue's scheduling conflict. And through everything I convinced myself it would be worthwhile. That finally, they'd recognize my worth. Standing in that ballroom now, watching them eliminate me from reality with every introduction, I understood how mistaken I'd been. The lights dimmed and a projection screen descended from the ceiling. We have a special surprise, my mother announced, her voice filled with the type of maternal pride I'd only observed from a distance. Little walk down memory lane for our Amanda. The slideshow commenced. A carefully selected history of the Carter family's golden child. Baby Amanda in her christening gown. Amanda at 5 claiming her first beauty pageant crown. Amanda at 16 at her debutante ball. Amanda at Harvard commencement. Amanda with politicians, with celebrities, with everyone who counted. 47 photographs total. I counted because I had nothing else to do except stand there and watch myself be eliminated from our family's narrative. Not one photograph included me. Not the Christmas mornings we'd experienced, not the family vacations. Such a beautiful family, someone whispered behind me. Does Amanda have any siblings? Another attendee inquired. My mother's answer carried across the space with perfect clarity. She's our only child who matters in moments like these. The words weren't even harsh anymore. They were simply truth, stated as casually as commenting on the weather. Something inside me fractured. Not dramatically, not with sound. Just a quiet breaking, like ice beginning to crack under pressure. I excused myself, heading toward the restroom. My reflection in the gilded mirror showed a stranger, someone who'd spent 28 years trying to earn love from people who'd already decided she wasn't worth it. My phone buzzed. A text from Eleanor Morrison, the senator's wife, whom I'd spoken with during vendor meetings. You did remarkable work on this event. If you ever want to discuss opportunities in event design, please contact me. You have genuine talent that deserves recognition. I stared at the message, something awakening inside me. Someone saw me. Someone who had no obligation to notice, who gained nothing from acknowledging me, had seen my worth. I returned to the ballroom just as dinner service began. Amanda was holding court at the head table, recounting the story of her proposal for the 3rd time that evening. And then Marcus got down on one knee at the top of the Eiffel Tower, she gushed. The sunset was perfect, the champagne was perfect, everything was perfect. That sounds magical, someone cooed. It was. Though honestly, the hardest part of wedding planning has been managing all the details myself. It's so exhausting being a perfectionist. I felt something cold settle in my chest. All those months of work, every late night, every crisis I'd solved, and she was claiming it all as her own achievement. My mother leaned over, whispering loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. Amanda's always been so organized. She gets that from my side of the family. That's when I noticed the envelope. It sat on the gift table, cream-colored with my parents' names written in elegant calligraphy. From the venue coordinator, most likely the final invoice or confirmation details. But something about it caught my attention. The way my mother's eyes kept darting toward it, the tension in my father's shoulders whenever anyone approached the gift table. During the main course, while everyone was distracted, I quietly retrieved the envelope. Inside was a contract, the final payment agreement for the venue. Due in 3 days. Amount, $127,000. And at the bottom, in my father's handwriting, payment to be processed from building account, Natalie's trust distribution. My hands went numb. The building account. The trust distribution. Let me explain what that meant. My grandmother, my mother's mother, had passed away when I was 15. She'd left me a trust fund, $800,000, to be released when I turned 25. But she'd also left me something else, a commercial building in downtown Hartford that generated rental income. My parents had been managing both for me. The trust, they claimed, was being invested wisely. The building income was going toward property expenses and taxes. For 13 years I'd trusted them. For 13 years I'd signed documents they put in front of me, without question, because they were my parents, and I wanted to believe they had my best interests at heart. Standing there, staring at that contract, I realized I'd been funding my own erasure. Every detail of Amanda's perfect life, her apartment, her car, her designer wardrobe, and now her wedding, had been paid for with money that was legally mine. The champagne glass slipped from my hand, shattering against the marble floor. Conversation stopped. Everyone turned to stare. "Natalie," my mother hissed, "for heaven's sake, when were you planning to tell me?" My voice came out steady, cold. "When were you planning to tell me that you've been stealing from me for 13 years? My father stood quickly. "This isn't the time or place." "No, I think this is exactly the time and place." I held up the contract. "This wedding costs $127,000, and you're paying for it with money from my trust fund. Money grandmother left to me." The room had gone completely silent. Amanda's face flushed. "Natalie, you're causing a scene." "I'm causing a scene? You've been living off my inheritance while treating me like I'm worthless." I turned to the assembled guests. "Did you know I have a degree from Parsons? That I graduated summa cum laude? That I spent 6 months planning every detail of this event?" I walked to the center of the room, my voice growing stronger with each word. "Did you know that not one photograph in that slideshow included me? That my parents introduced me to the senator as the help? That my sister just took credit for months of work I did for free?" "That's enough," my father commanded. "No, it's not enough. It's not nearly enough." I pulled out my phone. I spent the last 3 months doing something I should have done years ago. I contacted an attorney. A real one, not the family friend who's been helping. "You hide my money." My mother's face went white. "Turns out, the building grandmother left me? It's worth $2.30 million. The rental income over 13 years? $1.80 million. And my trust fund, which you claimed was invested, it still has exactly $800,000 because you never touched it. You were too busy stealing the building income." I looked directly at Amanda. "Your apartment, the one you love so much? It's in my building. Your car? Paid for with my rental income. This wedding? Every single detail paid for with money that was legally mine." The senator and his wife stood abruptly. "Robert, Margaret, I think we need to discuss this situation privately." But I wasn't finished. "The best part? That contract you're holding? The one that says payment is coming from my account? I revoked your access this morning. Every account, every property, everything. I met with attorneys this week and discovered that not only have you been embezzling from me, but you've been committing tax fraud by declaring the building income as your own." My father lunged forward, but the senator blocked him. "I'd advise you not to make this worse, Robert." I turned to Amanda. "You wanted me to disappear. Congratulations, I'm gone, but I'm taking everything that's rightfully mine with me." I walked toward the exit, then paused at the door. "Oh, and Amanda, the venue still needs their payment in 3 days. I suggest you figure out where. You're going to find $127,000 by Friday. Because it won't be coming from me." The silence behind me was deafening. I walked out of the St. Regis Hotel and never looked back. The next 72 hours were chaos, but not for me. I spent them in my attorney's office, signing documents that finally put my life in my own hands. Marcus's family, the Morrisons, called off the wedding within 24 hours. Senator Morrison released a brief statement. "After careful consideration, our family has decided to postpone the union until certain family matters are resolved." Translation: The Morrisons didn't want to be associated with a family whose theft and fraud had been exposed in front of Connecticut's elite. The venue called. My parents about the bounce check on day 3, exactly as I'd predicted. They didn't have $127,000. They didn't have anything close to it. The Hartford building had been their cash cow, and I'd just taken it back. My mother left 17 voicemails that first week. The progression was fascinating. Message 1. Natalie, you've completely misunderstood. We can explain everything. Message 5. You're being incredibly selfish. This is Amanda's special time. Message 12. Your father is having chest pains from the stress. Do you want to kill him? Message 17. You're dead to us. Don't ever contact this family again. I saved them all. My attorney said they might be useful. The social fallout was immediate and brutal. Connecticut's elite circles are small, and news travels fast. Within a week, the story had spread through every country club, charity board, and society function in the tri-state area. The headlines practically wrote themselves. Prominent Connecticut family exposed for embezzling daughter's inheritance and society wedding, canceled after financial fraud revealed. But here's what people found most shocking. It wasn't just about the money. It was the slideshow, the erasure, the public humiliation of their own daughter while living off her inheritance. That was the detail that made people uncomfortable because it revealed something beyond simple greed. It showed cruelty. The deliberate, sustained cruelty of people who'd stolen from their own child and then made her feel worthless while doing it. Eleanor Morrison became an unexpected ally. She called me 2 days after the rehearsal dinner implosion. I want you to know something, Natalie, she said. I've been watching your family for years. I knew something wasn't right. The way they treated you, the way they spent money they shouldn't have had. I just couldn't prove anything. Why didn't you say something? I asked. Because I didn't think you were ready to hear it. But when I saw you standing there that night, still trying to make everything perfect for people who didn't deserve your loyalty, I knew I had to reach out. She became my mentor, introducing me to clients, teaching me how to navigate the business world, showing me what actual maternal support looked like. The building became the foundation of my new life. I hired a property management company, a legitimate one, and discovered that my parents had been dramatically underreporting the rental income. With proper management, the building generated $185,000 annually, not the $65,000 they'd claimed. I also discovered they'd been pocketing security deposits, delaying maintenance to save money, and generally running the property into the ground. The tenants were thrilled when I took over. Several of them wrote letters thanking me for finally addressing issues my parents had ignored for years. One tenant, Mrs. Chen, who'd been there for 8 years, pulled me aside during my first visit. Your parents told us you were irresponsible, that you couldn't handle managing property, she said. But we always wondered because you were the one who showed up when we called with emergencies. You were the one who remembered our names, asked about our families. I'd been managing the building without realizing it, fixing problems my parents created while they collected my money and destroyed my reputation. The trust fund, still intact at $800,000, became my immediate security. I used it to hire a forensic accountant who uncovered even more fraud. Over 13 years, my parents had taken approximately $1.80 million in rental income. Plus, they'd taken out a line of credit against the property without my knowledge. Another $300,000 they'd spent on themselves. My attorney filed a lawsuit. Not because I needed the money back, I was already financially secure, but because they needed to face consequences. The lawsuit became public record, and suddenly everyone who'd witnessed my humiliation at the rehearsal dinner understood the full scope of what had happened. I hadn't caused a scene. I'd revealed the truth. The social consequences for my family were devastating. My father lost his position on 3 corporate boards. My mother was asked to step down from her charity work. Amanda's influencer career, which she'd been building with my money, collapsed overnight. The worst part for them wasn't the money. It was the exposure. Connecticut's elite can forgive financial problems, but they can't forgive public humiliation, especially when it's self-inflicted. As for Amanda, the wedding cancellation was just the beginning. Marcus didn't just postpone, he ended things entirely. A source, definitely Eleanor, told me that he'd been horrified by what he witnessed. Not just the financial fraud, but the casual cruelty, the way my entire family had erased me while living off my inheritance. He said he couldn't marry into a family like that, Eleanor told me over coffee. He kept saying, if they could do that to their own daughter, what would they do to me? Amanda had to move out of the apartment, my apartment, within 30 days. I gave her notice through my attorney, completely legal and completely final. She posted about it on Instagram naturally. Dealing with family. Betrayal during what should be the happiest time of my life. Sometimes the people you trust most are the ones who hurt you deepest. The comments section destroyed her. You mean the sister whose inheritance you were living off? The audacity to play victim when you were literally living in her building? Family betrayal? Look in the mirror. She deleted the post within hours, but screenshots live forever. The video went viral, of course. Someone had recorded my confrontation at the rehearsal dinner, and it hit social media within days. 12 million views in 4 days. The comments were overwhelmingly supportive, but they were also angry. People were angry on my behalf in ways I'd never been angry for myself. This is financial abuse. They stole from her for 13 years and then treated her like trash. The slideshow with 0 photos of her is psychopathic. That last one made me smile. I was doing exactly that. Victoria, sorry, Amanda's breakdown was predictably public. She posted a tearful video blaming me for destroying her life, which only made things worse. The comments were ruthless. Your sister gave you everything and you treated her like garbage. The trash took itself out. Her brand partnerships evaporated overnight. The luxury fashion label she'd been representing sent a termination letter. The jewelry company withdrew their campaign. The fitness tea she'd been promoting distanced themselves with a public statement about supporting family values and kindness. In 1 week, she lost 100,000 Instagram followers. Her fiancé and dream wedding brand deals worth $150,000 annually. Her apartment, it was in my building. Her reputation, she had to move back into our parents' house. Except it wasn't even a house anymore. Without the building income and with their Hampton house sold to cover debts, they'd had to downgrade to a rental in Norwalk. 3 bedrooms, no pool, no status. The girl who'd worn $15,000 dresses was now shopping at Target, posting desperate content trying to rebuild her following. Day in my life, living at home got 2,000 views and hundreds of comments about Karma. The penthouse apartment she'd wanted to turn into an Airbnb. I lived there for another month while I wrapped up my affairs, then sold it to a lovely young family for twice what my parents thought it was worth. Amanda had lost her kingdom in exactly 7 days. 6 months later, I stood in my new office in Asheville, North Carolina, watching the sunrise paint the Blue Ridge Mountains gold. The nameplate on my door read, Natalie Carter, Principal Designer, Brennan Interiors. Though I was considering changing the last name. The transformation had been remarkable. Free from my family's shadow, I discovered I wasn't just competent. I was exceptional. My first client came through Eleanor, who'd quietly spread the word among her connections. That led to another, then another. Within 6 months, I had 12 clients and 2 employees, with revenue already hitting $500,000. My apartment was a converted loft in the River Arts District, all exposed brick and soaring windows. I designed it myself, every detail reflecting my taste, not what my family would approve of. Modern but warm, elegant but comfortable. Everything they'd said I could never achieve. Eleanor visited monthly, taking the train down from Connecticut. We'd have lunch at my favorite cafe, where she'd update me on the family's continued struggles and remind me that I'd made the right choice. Your father asked about you, she said during her latest visit. And I told him you were dead too. His words after all. We both smiled at that. The trust fund had given me freedom, but the building income gave me power. I'd hired a professional management company, a real one, and the property was thriving. The tenants who'd always liked me better than my family sent a group card on my birthday to our favorite landlord who actually cares. Freedom tasted like morning coffee in my own office, with my name on the door, in a city where nobody knew I'd once been invisible. The attempts to reconcile started 3 months after I left. First came the texts. 47 from my father, each more desperate than the last. We need to talk. This has gone too far. Your mother is sick with worry. Please respond. You're destroying this family. Then Amanda. 200+ messages ranging from rage to manipulation to fake apology. I hate you. How could you do this to me? I'm sorry, okay? Is that what you want to hear? I need money for rent. Please, I'm your sister. My mother took a different approach, sending a formal letter through her attorney. 4 pages of elegant stationery filled with rewritten history, claiming she'd always loved me equally, that this was all a misunderstanding, that family should forgive. I responded with my own attorney's letter, a cease and desist order followed by a formal no-contact directive. If they continued to harass me, I'd pursue a restraining order. The extinction burst came on Christmas Eve. All 3 of them showed up at my Asheville apartment building. The doorman, whom I'd specifically briefed about this possibility, called me immediately. Should I call the police, Miss Carter? I watched them on the security monitor. My father pacing, my mother crying, Amanda on her phone, probably trying to document their journey to reconciliation for social media content. Yes, I said. Tell them there are trespassers who've been legally notified to maintain no contact. They left before the police arrived, but not before Amanda posted a tearful video about her heartless sister refusing to see family on Christmas. It got ratioed so hard she deleted it within an hour. Apologies motivated by financial desperation aren't apologies at all. Standing in my office now, a year later, I've learned truths that 28 years in that family never taught me. Boundaries aren't punishment. They're self-preservation. They're not about being cruel to others but about being kind to yourself. Family isn't an automatic pass for love. Being related by blood doesn't grant anyone the right to destroy your spirit, diminish your accomplishments, or erase your existence. Love isn't shown through words at holiday dinners but through daily actions, through recognition, through the simple act of seeing someone for who they truly are. Respect must be earned, not expected. My parents expected my respect while giving none in return. They demanded loyalty while showing only betrayal. They required devotion, while offering only dismissal. The most profound lesson, sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself, and for them, is to walk away. My absence forced them to confront the reality of who they were. Without me to blame, to diminish, to erase, they had to face the empty spaces in their own hearts. Eleanor told me something during her last visit that stays with me. You didn't break the family, darling. You revealed it was already broken. You just stopped being the glue holding together something that should have fallen apart years ago. Blood makes you related, but loyalty makes you family. And I've built a new family here. Friends who celebrate my successes, clients who value my work, a community that sees me not as the invisible second daughter, but as Natalie, whole and worthy on my own terms. The girl who once shook holding a champagne glass now holds her future steady in both hands. And that future? It's entirely mine to build. Thank you for witnessing my story. If you've made it this far, you're probably someone who understands that sometimes the most loving thing you can do is walk away. What boundaries have you had to set with family? I'd love to hear your story in the comments. And if this video helped you feel less alone, please share it with someone who might need to hear that their peace is worth more than toxic family approval. Subscribe for more stories about choosing yourself. Remember, you can't heal in the same environment that broke you. Until next time, this is Natalie, choosing freedom over family dysfunction.